The first Hamilton stories followed Bob and Ina Hamilton as they carried their family through hard roads, covered wagon miles, Arkansas farm life, and finally back toward Texas. But family stories don't stop with one generation. Bob and Ina's oldest son, Gordon, grew up, married Edith Cox, and had a little boy named Bobby Elbert Hamilton. When Bob was 6 years old, he lived with his mother and daddy, Edith and Gordon Hamilton, in a small farmhouse about 7 miles northwest of Jayton, Texas. His grandma and grandpa Cox lived just 1 mile down the road, close enough for the families to visit back and forth. And in those days, visiting was one of the best kinds of entertainment. There was no electricity in Bob's house. At night, Gordon and Edith lit kerosene lamps, and the dim glow around the table was enough for the family to play cards together. One cold December evening, while they were playing rummy, Bob's mind drifted far away from the cards. Christmas was coming, and Bob wanted something more than anything else in the whole world. A bicycle. Not just a little something, not a toy he would forget in a week, a real bicycle. He looked up at his daddy and asked if Santa Claus might bring him whatever he wanted. Then, with all the seriousness a 6-year-old boy could muster, Bob said he had wanted a bicycle for a long, long time. In fact, he had wanted one his whole life. Gordon tried not to laugh. He asked Bob how he expected to ride a bicycle when he didn't even know how. But Bob was sure there was nothing to it. You just got on, pushed the pedals, and the wheels started moving. Easy. Gordon smiled and told him that a bicycle was awfully big and heavy. There might not be room for one on Santa's sleigh. Bob's face fell. So Gordon quickly added that Bob could always write Santa a letter. After all, you never knew until you asked. That was all Bob needed to hear. He jumped up from the table, ran for paper and pencil, and hurried to his mother for help. That very night, Bob wrote his letter to Santa Claus, asking for the one thing he wanted most. The next day, he carried that important letter to the mailbox, hoping it would make it all the way to the North Pole in time. At last, Christmas morning came. Bob bounded out of bed and ran into the little living room. And there, beside the Christmas tree, was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. A shiny red bicycle, trimmed in white. Bob ran his fingers over the bright paint and jumped up and down with joy. He could hardly wait to ride it. As soon as Gordon and Edith got him dressed and bundled up, they took Bob and his new bicycle outside. That's when Gordon pointed down at some tracks in the dirt. "Well, what do you know?" he said. "Those are Santa's sleigh tracks." Bob looked at those marks in the yard, and that settled it. Santa Claus had been right there at their farmhouse, and he had brought Bob a red bicycle. Bob climbed on, pushed the pedals, and took off. For about 3 seconds. The wheels wobbled one way, then the other, and down Bob went with a thud. But he got right back up. Again and again he tried, and again he fell. Finally, Edith ran beside him, holding the bicycle steady until Bob began to learn the feel of it. Before long, that little boy was riding his red bicycle up and down the dirt road between his house and his grandparents' house, having the time of his life. The months passed. Winter turned to spring, spring to summer, and before long the cotton fields were white again. That meant Gordon was working at the cotton yard in Jayton. One morning, Edith decided she and Bob would spend the day at Grandma and Grandpa Cox's house, while Gordon went on to town. Bob asked if he could ride his bicycle over instead of riding in the car. His mother said yes. When they reached the Cox house, Gordon visited a while with Grandpa Cox. Then he said it was time to head to work. That's when Bob got a grand idea. He begged his daddy to let him ride his bicycle all the way to Jayton, 7 miles. Gordon knew Bob would never make it that far, but he figured he could let him try, then pick him up along the way. So he said, "Well, you'd better get going, son, if you want to beat me." Bob didn't waste a second. He jumped on that red bicycle and started pedaling as fast as his little legs could go, past the cotton fields, past the mesquite trees, down the rough, bumpy dirt road. He pedaled and pedaled, determined to beat his daddy to town, and somehow, he did. When Gordon finally drove into Jayton, he expected to find Bob somewhere along the road. But there was no Bob. Then he reached town and found him lying on the porch near the cotton yard, his legs drawn up under his chin. Bob had made it all the way to Jayton, but now his legs were cramping so badly he could hardly talk. Gordon picked him up, put him in the car, and took him back to Grandma and Grandpa Cox's house. The old country doctor came to examine him and said Bob was foundered, just like a horse that had worked too hard and gone down. The doctor said he would be all right, but he needed rest. For 3 days, Bob stayed in bed while his mother and grandmother rubbed his aching legs. And finally, on the 4th day, he could walk again. A few days later, Bob climbed right back on that shiny red bicycle with the white trim and rode down the road to his grandmother's house. As for that 7-mile ride to town, well, it was mostly forgotten, because back in those days, a boy with a red bicycle had places to go.